Alright, so I didn't think I'd have to make one of these kinds of videos already, but I want to tell everyone to calm down. This is the time of the season where people who are new to fantasy ruin their seasons after one goddamn game. So we're going to talk about the concepts of buy low and sell high players, and then get into which players I would avoid trading for right now, and which ones I'd advise against trading away. So hopefully this helps you guys out, because if you got some dummies in your league, you can really take advantage of the initial panic right now and score some great players. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Alright, so I'm going to start off with the biggest one. It's going to be Jalen Brown. Now let me ask you guys a question. Do you think Jalen Brown is going to score 46 points a game for the entirety of the season? No, there's no shot. Unless he's going like Michael Jordan mode for 82 games of the season, he's not going to keep up this kind of production. And that's why you don't trade for a player after they've just had like their best career game of all time, because their value's at an all-time high. You're going to have to give up way more than you should for Jalen Brown. Now don't get me wrong, I love Jalen Brown. I've put him in my top 30. I think he's going to have a really solid season. But the thing is, this is how selling high works. When a player is at his all-time high value, that's when you avoid trading for them, because it's going to cost you way too much. And while I do think Jalen's going to have a good season, maybe he goes on a stretch where his production's a little lower, and then I would advise trading for him. But in this situation, his value is so goddamn high right now that I cannot justify a trade for Jalen Brown right now. You're going to have to give up so much, so many pieces, and people are just panicking because it's the first game of the season. They're like, oh my god, I should have drafted Jalen Brown. Maybe I should give up people that are probably going to have a better season than him overall, just so I can get the production that he gave him in one game. This is an initial panic. I would not trade for Jalen Brown right now. Maybe if you have Jalen Brown on your team and someone's offering you like a Bam Adebayo or someone that I have ranked higher than Jalen Brown, then I'm all for like trading Jalen Brown away. Everyone on this list is sort of guys that, like, if they're on your team, maybe shop them around and like offer them a trade value, like in trade packages, because you're going to be able to get like a pretty high return. If you can't get a return you're interested in, then don't take it. But I'm just saying, like, don't trade for these guys. But if they're on your team, you can sort of listen to offers and trading them away, because their value right now is just way too high. So next up on the list is going to be Zach LaVine, and this is a similar situation. Like, I love Zach LaVine. I think he's going to have a great year, but he's not going to score 34 points a game, 7 rebounds, and give 59 fantasy points. Like, he shot 11 for 17, 11 of 11 from the free throw line. His value right now, all-time high. The Bulls, they were all over the place last night offensively. Vucevic was missing easy bunnies. DeRozan wasn't playing that great. Lonzo was like mediocre. And I do think LaVine is going to be the number one guy on their team, but you shouldn't trade for someone after they have a 59-point fantasy outing. Like, that's just a common theme that I really want to reiterate to you guys. This is a common trap that new people to fantasy fall into, and then they'll give up way too much for Zach LaVine or Jalen Brown, etc. And it just sort of screws yourself out for the rest of the fantasy season, because then you're like giving a guy that probably is going to have a better overall season for just because you saw one great game and you just become fixated on that. Next up, very exact same circumstance. It's going to be Time Lord. I don't understand why people are getting so hyped about Time Lord right now that they're trying to trade a lot for him. He did have a really good game, and per minute he's going to be an absolutely insane fantasy performer. I think he's going to have a great year, but Is last game like indicative of his production for the entirety of the season? I really don't think so. He played 45 minutes. Al Horford's in the protocols, so he's not even there. And he put up 16, 5, 3, 3, and 10. I don't think that's sustainable. He's not going to play 45 minutes every game. Once Al Horford's back in the lineup, they're probably going to be splitting some minutes more evenly. And while he is still going to be a great per minute contributor, I really would avoid giving like a top 30 player for him just because he had one really good game. Then if we move on to the next player on my list, I don't want to keep reiterating. I'm just giving you guys to avoid trading for, because you're going to have to give up a lot. And maybe, like, I'm not saying if you can get him for a good price, yeah, but I'm just saying it's pretty much impossible to get a good price for a player after they've just had a career night. So if you're getting mad in the comments being like, oh my god, why would I not trade for these guys? They're so good. I'm not saying they're bad players. They're going to be good. I'm just saying you're not going to be able to get a good value return for them for what you're going to have to give up. So next up, Harrison Barnes had a career night. Is Harrison Barnes going to score like 36 points per game every game? I sincerely doubt it. He was hitting everything from 3 last game. He shot 8 for 11 from 3, put up 36 points, 9 rebounds. That's not going to continue for the rest of the season. He's probably the one that I would expect the biggest drop-off for. So if I had Harrison Barnes on my team right now, I'd probably be looking to trade him away, honestly, if you have any takers, because you can probably get some really good return for him if you have someone that's kind of an idiot and just sort of has their eyes fixated on the first game of the season. And then lastly, I'm not even going to talk about him too much, Evan Fournier. Really solid debut for the Knicks. I was really impressed with what I was seeing out of him, but the game went into overtime. It wasn't like he wasn't really doing too much in like the start of the game, but then he just got hot, hit a bunch of 3-pointers. Is he going to score 32 points a game? No. So don't trade for Evan Fournier right now. It's just not worth it. I would generally just avoid making trades for like after the first game or like the first game week at the very least, because You really just, like, you drafted your team. You probably had some confidence in them. Don't let all of your preparation just get thrown out the window after, like, 1 or 2 games, all right? Like, that's what I'm saying. You can, like, try to trade these players away, but it's not like a necessity. Like, you drafted your team. Have some confidence in yourself. Your team's probably going to be all right. Don't get so caught up in one game. There's still 81 more games to go. And yeah, that's just how I feel. So if you have these guys, hey, maybe try to shop them, listen to offers. Maybe you can get something that's just an absolute steal. But it's not a necessity. If they're on your team, then I think you're just good. Like, you're chilling. But if they're not on your team, don't freak out and try to trade for them under, like, any circumstance to where you're losing out on a lot of value. And that's something that I really want to stress home. If you're getting anything from this video, don't trade for these players unless you can get a good return, all right? Don't freak out. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm trying to be as clear as possible in case anyone's new to fantasy and doesn't really understand how it works. So with that being said, we're going to get into players that I would avoid trading away if they're on your team now. So this is the flip side, or what we call buy low players. If these guys are on your team, anyone who offers you a trade offer right now for them is trying to rip you off because they know that their production is going to go up, and they're accounting for the fact that you don't think that it's going to go up, and they're sort of trying to, like, prey on your naivety. So first up on the list, Jason Tatum, my other Celtics lover. Jason Tatum had a really bad game last night. Simple as that. He shot 7 for 30, didn't really put up any fantasy points. Is that going to continue for the entirety of the season? No, like, it's not. I don't know why people freak out about this. Like, someone in the Discord just got offered Jason Tatum and Goran Dragic for D'Lo and Malcolm Brogdon. Like, why, what are we doing here? Why are we giving away Tatum for, like, such a low value in return? Tatum is probably going to be, like, a top 10 fantasy option, and we're just sort of throwing that away for two, like, maybe top 60 guys? Like, for what, bro? It's one game. Relax. It's really not that serious. He's going to bounce back. It's Jason Tatum, man. He was an all-star last year. He's probably going to, like I said, he's going to finish top 10, I would assume, or close to it. So don't trade him away because he had one bad night. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, it makes no sense to me. It boggles my mind when people do this. Like, I don't understand. All this draft projections and everything, then 1 out of 82 games, you're like, yep, time to screw all that away, and then just trade him away for nothing, pretty much. Next up, Jonas Valanciunas. Again, a guy I was really high on, had a really bad night. But this one's sort of explainable. The one thing that Jonas Valanciunas, I find, has always struggled with is going against, like, other big guys who are just as strong as him. Like, normally he can dominate if he's playing teams that don't have, like, a sturdy center that can guard him in the post, but when he plays, like, an Embiid or, like, anyone that can match up with him in terms of size, he's really just not that effective. It's probably, like, his only knock for fantasy. So yeah, he shot 3 for 19. That is not going to continue. I feel like he always struggles when he plays Embiid, and he still grabbed 12 rebounds, put up 9 points and block. Like, that's probably one of the worst games of the season you're going to get out of Jonas. So if he's on your team right now, don't trade him away. You're not going to get good value for him in return. But if he's on someone else's team and they're trying to, like, ship him away, go ahead and throw an offer at him. Like, if they're going to be that dumb to trade away Jonas after that performance, then might as well take advantage. Similarly, sticking with centers is going to be Nikola Vucevic. I mean, again, he was just, if you watch the Pistons-Bulls game, he was just missing easy bunnies. Like, it was ridiculous. He missed a ton of layups. Shot 7 for 21. But the fact that he's still taking 21 shots even with these new additions is a great sign. He put up 15 and 15, but if we get, like, Vucevic back into form, it's the first game of the season. He's really going to be, like, putting up big numbers if he's taking that amount of shot attempts and with that rebounding rate. So yeah, he shot like terrible from the floor is essentially what I'm trying to say here. And I don't think that's a good reason to trade him away because it's been, as I've said so many goddamn times in this video, sorry for repeating myself, but it's been one game, fellas. Like, relax. Next up, Kevin Porter Jr. Kevin Porter Jr., we knew it going into the season. He's a polarizing player. Sometimes he's hot. Sometimes he's so inconsistent. That's the biggest knock against him. Like, last game, it was the 9 turnovers. That is absolutely insane. So maybe people were, like, I feel like people were definitely a lot higher on him in drafts than they might have should have been. I have him projected around the 70s to 80s mark. And people were sort of expecting him, like, if they see someone that can score in isolation, they just sort of assume that he's going to be, like, a top 50 player, take over games. But Kevin Porter Jr. is a young player, had a bad game. He's going to have plenty of bad games this season. He's not the most consistent right now. It's his biggest, like, flaw in his game. But I mean, he's not going to have he's not going to average 9 turnovers. His shooting is probably going to be a bit better, and he's going to have games where he goes off for like 25 and 9. So that's why I'd avoid trading him away, because if someone offers you something right now, it's not going to be for great value because he had an absolute stinker of a game, and it's just not worth your time to trade him away. And then last up is going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, same thing, bro. If you have Shai, don't trade him now. His value, like, this is as low as it's going to get for the whole season. The Thunder aren't great, so, like, I wasn't a big fan of drafting Shai in particular because I was worried about shutting him down. But if you have him on your team now, there's no point trading him at this point in the season. Maybe wait a few games. If he starts to do a little bit better and you just want to trade him, then go ahead. But for now, man, there's nothing more. There's nothing more I need to say here, guys. I hope you understand what I'm trying to tell you guys. If don't trade buy low players and don't trade for sell high players is the general takeaway from this video. So that's going to do it for the video. Sorry for rambling and getting so pissed, but it just makes me so angry when people sort of overreact to the beginning of the season. It happens every fantasy year. I don't know why. I sort of am never expecting it because I just assume people are going to learn, but there's new people to fantasy. If you're new to it, just trying to help you out here. Hopefully this video accomplished that. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I tried to answer as many comments as possible. And yeah, as always, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day.